So in the first video I went through how to set up a board, so how to choose an angle, how to choose holes, how to place handholds, footholds, things like that. So in this video I'm going to sort of talk about how to actually use the tool. So you've built the board, you've got the holes, everything's on the wall, and basically you're ready to climb. So there's nothing stopping you just starting to climb on the board, just making up problems randomly and just getting on with it, climbing and having fun on it, for sure. When I climb on a new or like a recently reset board, there's a few things that I want to do just to start with. The first thing I'll do is I'll make a warm-up circuit. So I'll set a bunch of problems that kind of form my warm-up, and I'll do those problems every time I climb on the board. So what I like to do is set usually between 6 to 8 problems, kind of ascending difficulty. So the easiest one, I should never fall off. I should be able to do it first try every session. The hardest problem, I should nearly always be able to do it first try. Occasionally maybe the first try I'll fall off the last move or the penultimate move or something like that. So having this circuit of warm-up problems for me accomplishes a few things. First is obviously with any warm-up, it makes sure your fingers, your forearms, your body are all ready to go and give 100% on the rest of your session. The second thing that a warm-up circuit on a board does for me is it gives me a real indication at the start of my session how I'm feeling. So on any given day I could be feeling better or worse on those warm-up problems, but because they're the same and I do them every session, I can tell whether I'm having a good session or a bad session. Whereas if I was warming up in a climbing wall and I was just trying a bunch of problems around the wall to warm up, they're not always the same. I may warm up on different things, and it's hard then to tell, am I having a good day, am I having a bad day? So with the same circuit of problems you warm up on every time, you have a good idea then you can adjust your session accordingly, whether you kind of tone things down a little bit on the main problems of the session, or you ramp it up and you try the harder things. So I'd actually suggest, even if you're in a commercial climbing wall and you're going to climb on the board, warm up with easier problems on it, or if the board that you're going to train on is maybe like 50 degrees and they have a 30-degree board, make up a set of problems on a 30-degree board and warm up on those instead. At least then you've got a set routine, and you can make sure that your fingers and your forearms and your body are all warmed up for what you're going to do after, because there's a lot of problems in the wall. They won't always warm you up specifically. They'll warm up maybe certain grip types or moves, but you won't always warm up in a specific enough way for what you're going to do after. So some of the most important things when setting this warm-up circuit is to make the problems comfortable, to make them enjoyable, and to make them safe. So you don't want a warm-up circuit that's got a bunch of painful holds or painful moves or awkward or thrutchy moves. You want everything to feel nice and enjoyable, but also comfortable. It's worth taking time to get these things right. So if it takes you a while to set that warm-up circuit, maybe over 5-6 sessions it takes you to really dial in those problems, then do it, because in the long run it is worth it. So when I set these problems, I'm generally starting with smaller moves and bigger holds, and I'll then gradually move to bigger moves and smaller holds. But I'll do this kind of incrementally through the problem. So in the first problem will be kind of small moves on jugs. I mean, this board's 50 degrees, so I'm still not doing any massive moves or pulling on any bad holds to start. And then towards the middle of the circuit, the holes will be kind of slightly smaller and the moves will be starting to increase a little bit in size. And then towards the end of the circuit, the problems will have smaller holes and some bigger moves in as well. So the problems will also actually each have a unique style to them. So for example, this board, I've set a few warm-up problems that focus on wider moves. I've set a few warm-up problems that focus on undercuts, and I've set a few warm-up problems that focus on tension, keeping your feet on. So if you kind of set this circuit of problems to kind of warm you up for almost any type of move you could find in your actual session, then you know you're prepared and ready to fire when it comes to trying hard on the problems you want to try during the session. So I will also sometimes use the warm-up circuit specifically to warm up for problems that I want to try later on in the session. So for example, if I'm going to try a Gaston problem, or a problem with like a hard shoulder move, I may use the Gaston or the shoulder problem in my warm-up circuit and kind of repeat it a few times just to get the movement ready for when I need to try in that position later on in the session. Main tips for setting a warm-up circuit: the first thing would be get the intensity right. So start with those problems that are easy, that you can flash every single time, you should never fall off them. Finish with the ones that you maybe will fall off once in every 10 times or something like that. Second thing, it's kind of two things, but make them safe and enjoyable. Make them so that you're not going to get injured on them, you enjoy repeating them every session, you look forward to doing them, and they get you into a nice flow for the rest of the session. The third tip would be to gradually decrease that hold size. So start to move through smaller and smaller holds through the 6 to 8 problems. Some people take longer to warm up as well. If it takes you 10 problems or 12 problems to really get warm, then fine. Fourth tip would be to make them a range of styles. So include different types of moves, include wide moves, include some undercuts, include shoulder moves, include tension moves, include some locks as well. Make it specific as well to what you want to try later on in the session. Once you've got your warm-up circuit and it's sorted, you can use it again and again and again. I'll generally try and change them up every 6 months. Eventually you kind of get so used to them that if they become kind of a non-issue, or you just level up your climbing a little bit and then they're too easy to actually warm you up. So you may even need to start making some of the problems during your main session part of your warm-up. So there is also that option. The other thing I'll occasionally do with this warm-up circuit is I'll sometimes do them for 4x4s, or I will even add ankle weights to some of them if I'm feeling particularly good at the start of a session, just to make them a bit harder and to kind of get me going a little bit more for the session. So what I will say to start with is, before I ever do this warm-up circuit, I've always done a full cardio mobility and usually some fingerboarding before I actually even climb on this board. So I hope that was useful to some people. If you've got any questions or anything you want to know any more of, just pop a comment below and I'll try and help. And the next video, I think I'll do a video about setting the actual problems from the main portion of your session. So the problems that are going to be projects, the problems that you're setting maybe to replicate climbs outside, things like that. So if you're interested, have a look back. I should have that one soon.